Hello, everyone, and welcome to SpeakUp this podcast. This is the place where everyday women and men have an opportunity to share their stories to inspire yours. We say what you think no one wants to hear, but everybody needs to know. I'm your host, Angel Charmaine, and tonight I've got two amazing guests with us, not just one, for this segment of One-on-One with Angel. And I wanted to have them share their stories tonight because they live with a condition that many of us have seen, but really don't know much about. And so I want to give them an opportunity and space tonight to be able to share their stories with you all. And make sure you stay into the very end of the conversation to learn how you can support them and others with the condition of epilepsy. So I want to go ahead and introduce you all to Miss Kim Hardy, as well as Miss Jenvon Cherry. And we're going to start tonight with Kim. How you doing, sis?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for joining me here at SpeakUp Sis podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I appreciate the invite.
That's what's up. So if you will, please tell the people a little bit about who you are.
My name is Kim Hardy. I am the co-founder and CEO of Hardy Hands Foundation. I'm also an author of a children's book called The Adventures of Kimmy and Wally, Wally to the Rescue. I started having seizures at probably the age of 9 or 10. I was in a car accident with my grandmother and my aunt. That was at about six or 7. And from that, I got a concussion, and which led into my kind of storybook entry into the world of epilepsy as we know it. So from there, I started having seizures. They started changing up gradually over time, and that's where we are now.
Wow. I really want to hear about that because I didn't know. I didn't know that you could develop epilepsy or seizure disorder. And we'll talk about the terminology in a moment as well. I didn't realize that you could develop it from an incident. I thought if you're epileptic, you're born with it, right? So, goodness, I learned something new already. So tonight's gonna be a whopper of learning, right? So thank you for being here tonight and for sharing. And we're gonna get more into your story in just a second, but I want to go ahead and bring on Jenvon Cherry, your partner in crime here. Yes. Welcome to SpeakUp Sis podcast, Jenvon. Tell us a little bit about you.
My name is Jenvon Cherry, and I am the co-founder of Epitome of Epilepsy. I was diagnosed with epilepsy at the age of 6 years old. I was stabbed in the eye, my left eye, with a pencil lead. And the pencil lead cut off into my brain, lodged itself into, the pencil lead lodged itself into my eye, moved itself into my brain, and I had to have emergency surgery. And ever since then, that, I shouldn't say small because it was a big incident, led me to have seizures.
Wow. Okay. Glory. So it's hard to make me speechless. But when you said stabbed in the eye, I just had to ask, was it an intentional stab in the eye?
I was 6. We were in the classroom, and I asked to borrow a classmate's pencil, and he got upset that I had the pencil. He took it, and he stabbed me in my eye. The pencil was literally like this.
Okay.
I pulled the pencil out, and sorry for the goriness, but...
Ooh, listen, I'm one of those people. I can visualize everything, and with you doing the hand movements, I'm feeling it's like, oh, okay, wow,
yeah.
That's a whole other podcast on like anger management for 6-year-olds. Like get your life together. Your mom and daddy missed something.
And it's crazy because that small incident changed my life forever. And
Forever.
it was forever.
Wow. That's something else. So, all right, I'm gonna stay focused, because if you know anything about Angel Charmaine, Speak Up Sis podcast, well, we can get off on a tangent, but we're gonna stay focused tonight. Thank you again, ladies, for coming in and sharing. And I just want to say this for those of you who are watching us live on Speak Up Sis YouTube or Speak Up Sis podcast Facebook. Hey, and thank you for joining us tonight. But I want you to know I'm not going to spend a lot of time in the chat, because we have 30 minutes and I want to make sure that both of these women have ample opportunity to share their stories. So we will acknowledge your comments after the fact, but please, you can interact with us and we will interact with you after the live show. Okay. All right. So, Kim, we're going to start with you. If you will please share with us what it was like at the very beginning, being a kid who has this diagnosis. Did you understand what it was? Did it take you a little time? What was that process like for you?
Well, I understood it because although the head injury triggered it, it's in my family. And my great uncle had seizures, but he was an alcoholic. So it was assumed that his alcoholism caused it until his grandson started having it. So for me, I knew and my grandmother was a former nurse, so we knew what seizures were. I was just misdiagnosed for years. They said it was because I was playing a video game at the time. I was playing Sonic Hedgehog, and everybody who's ever played Sonic, you know that the graphics are all over the place. But that entire day, I was moody and just all over the place. Like I couldn't get myself together. And so I went to my outlet. I started playing video games. And next thing I knew, I woke up in a pile of Legos.
Wow.
And I was also diagnosed with having ADHD, and I didn't have that. So that was pretty much it.
So, if you will, please explain if there's a difference, or if the words can be used interchangeably, epilepsy and seizure disorder, because I think most of us recognize seizures, especially when it comes to diabetics.
Right.
And I remember being a little girl, and my cousin's aunt, she was a serious diabetic, insulin taking diabetic, and she had like a grand mal. It freaked me out. I didn't know what it was. I was a little girl, and I think the majority of us, that's what we think of, or that's what we know. Can you kind of shed some light on if there's a difference between epilepsy and seizure disorder? Are they the same thing? And even kind of talk a little bit about how epilepsy presents itself in your lives.
You want me to take this one, Kim?
Yeah, go ahead.
So epilepsy versus seizures are two different things. Just because one person has a seizure doesn't mean that they initially have epilepsy. Epilepsy comes in the term of if you have 3 to 5 more seizures in a reoccurring occurrence, that means that you will be diagnosed with epilepsy. The difference, or what we see on TV, the grand mal seizures, that's not what Kim and I are experiencing. And honestly, that's not what a normal person that has epilepsy experience. We experience jerks, twitches of the eye, trembling of the hands, jerks of the body. And it doesn't have to be a full out grand mal seizure, but we can be talking, and if we're silent, that means a silent absent seizure is going on right there. So every seizure that you see on Grey's Anatomy or some type of show, that's not automatically what we describe as having epilepsy. Seizures come in different form. I've honestly ran across the church. And after I got done running across the church, I fell out into a seizure, 2 of them. So they can come in different forms.
Okay. I think that's really good to know. Because like I said, I really think most people, that's what they think about.
Mm-hmm.
So if you will, please, Jenvon, share um, how that journey sort of started with you and understanding what it is that you were dealing with, because like you said, it came from an incident prior to that. You weren't having this condition, so now all of a sudden you're dealing with this. What was that like for you as at that age, and then growing up having to live with the condition?
I think for me, my seizures came in 3 stages. Being young, 6 years old, it was the fear of the unknown. Me nor my family knew what epilepsy, what seizures were. I stayed in the hospital for almost 4 months after my incident. Growing up in my teenage years, it was more of embarrassment. You didn't want to tell people that you had epilepsy or seizures because they thought that something was wrong with you. And that embarrassment led into my college years. But I grew confidence in myself to know that my walk may be different than yours, but I'm not going to be embarrassed of myself any longer. I'm going to use my voice to speak about my me nor my family knew what epilepsy, what seizures. We I think him and I both have a agreement that this is a invisible disability. You may not be able to see it, but or you may not even know that anything is wrong with Kim and I. You may not think that anything is wrong, but as soon as you were to see us fall on the floor, then you know that something is wrong with us. But we look, I like to call it a superhero. You know, I'm different than the next person, and this makes me different from you. And I like my superpower.
Right. Right. I have a good friend. Her name is Naomi. She has a son. His name is Noah. And she taught me a term that I tell everybody now. Anytime I hear someone talking about disabilities or anything like that, or somebody being different or whatever term people like to use, I always remember that Naomi said, he is not disabled, or, you know, he is differently abled. And ever since she said that to me, that has really stuck with me, because when we think about it, it's just that people are just able to do things differently. It's not that he can't go run in a race. It's just that he participates in the race differently than other people would participate. And so for me, that term has really stuck with me. And I'm telling you, every time I hear somebody use another word, I'm like, let me share with you a term that a friend of mine shared with me. So I think that's a really good concept and understanding for people to have. So how did you two connect?
At another epilepsy event, there's an organization in Atlanta, and we met at it was 2 events down there that we ran into each other at. So, and from there we just started the conversation. That was around the time I was starting Hardy Hands. So,
all right. So y'all just connected
instantly. Yep. We were sitting at the same table, and it was just like,
it was like fireworks. Our stories were similar. Our walk with epilepsy was similar, and we really just bonded. It's rare that you find someone that has the similar story to you. And both of us being Black women with epilepsy, we don't really see that. So we just automatically clicked.
Okay. So you said Black. Why don't you see as many Black women with epilepsy? Does that mean they're
You want to answer that, Kimberly?
Yes, I do.
Wait a minute, hold on a second. Those of you who are listening, you had to see that head twist neck thing she just did. Like, hold on, I need to say something about this. Please school us, sis. Why don't you see Black women with epilepsy?
And it's not just Black women, it's Black folks in general, y'all, we got to start talking. We don't talk. We don't share our stuff. I mean, growing up, it doesn't even have to be epilepsy. It could be about anything. Like, my family is from Winsboro, South Carolina. Winsboro and Blair, South Carolina. Very country. But we're down the road from each other. Yet we see each other all the time. We come from a very large family. And yet I did not know I had this many cousins walking the same journey I'm walking.
Wow.
Why? Because we don't talk.
And another thing, when we have organizations, they're normally, I don't know if I could say this, whitewashed, where you join organizations. You join these other organizations and you don't see people that look like you. And it's hard to be active when you are the only person of color and you are still treated differently, even though you are suffering from the same thing, but you're treated differently because of your skin. So, and that was another reason why Kimberly and I talked and was in agreement to make sure that we spoke about epilepsy in the Black community, because we as people, like she said, we sweep a lot of stuff under the rug.
Right.
But if the education is Black people, African Americans suffer with epilepsy at a higher percentage than any other race.
Really?
Yes. And sudden unexpected death syndrome is the highest rate in African Americans. We can die in our sleep from seizures. We can have a seizure and never recover. And these are things that we just want to make sure that we are talking about and making us aware of those things.
Right. And so you decided to do that through Hardy Hands Epilepsy
Hardy
Foundation.
Hands, and I'm the co-founder of Epitome of Epilepsy. So we both have organizations, and we just really want to make sure that we are being voice for advocates of epilepsy.
All right, so tell us about the organizations, because I'm interested to know, what do you need the community, the Black community, to do, and how can we do whatever it is that you need us to do to be able to support your efforts?
Go ahead, Kimberly.
Okay. Well, okay. So of course, with nonprofits, I started about it's coming up on 4 years in November. And, funding is mainly the goal, that, and just asking questions. Ask us questions. Let us educate you a little bit on what we go through. So, but that, just support, support financially, physically, everything, just support.
So what
Javon,
No,
what do you do in the foundation? So what types of activities do you do and things of that nature with the foundation itself?
Okay, so right my biggest goal was the support group. I'm sorry, Javon. My biggest goal was the support group, but we don't talk. So I have nobody to support in my group.
So it sounds to me like the first thing is to get people who live with epilepsy to own that, and to stand up and say, hey, I'm here. I want to share this because I think it fits in this place. Just the other day, I was talking to a friend of mine. This is going to sound weird, but just no judgment, okay? So we were talking, and she said to me, there was a little girl in the place where we were. She was with her mom and her dad, and she was differently abled, visibly, okay, with some other types of issues and conditions, clearly. And so my friend was like, it's so good to see her mom and her dad. They were so excited, and they were, like talking about her, and they were showing her off and whatever. And she was like, she was not used to seeing that. And I was like, well, those are her parents, right? And she was like, no, where she's like, I'm just not used to that where I'm from. And she was trying to find the words to say it, but I knew exactly what she was saying. In the Black community, we're used to having a cousin or uncle or auntie or something that's different, and they're in the room, right? They're in the room, don't nobody go in or whatever, and we tend to sort of lock away our people who are differently abled.
Yep.
And it's almost a shameful thing, right? For the parents to say that my child has this condition. We're talking about epilepsy now, but like you all said, I think it's kind of across the board when it comes to conditions that people don't think are normal or whatever. And we tend to be ashamed, lock our family members away, and we just not gonna talk about Uncle so-and-so or little Susie, whoever. And so I think what I hear you all saying is there's no need to be ashamed.
Right.
And we've created an organization, we created a foundation for you to have a voice. So we need you to come participate.
Yeah. If you think about it, and Giovanna, I tell you, back in our great grandparents' days, they used to lock people away in the mental institute for having seizures because they thought it was like a possession or you had spells. They call them spells. Right. So it's kind of a generational thing where the stigma is following, but it's 2021, y'all. Granted, some people's mindsets are still back in the day. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get locked away for saying I have epilepsy.
Right.
And we need to support each other because anxiety and depression is real with epilepsy. It's really real. And if you're by yourself, especially if you don't have family and a support system, let us in the epilepsy community be here to support you, because that's what we're here for. And that's why we're doing this.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
Thank you.
So the first thing we need you all to do is to become a part of the community. Let me ask about allies. Do you all welcome people into the foundation, into the community that you're creating who do not live with epilepsy? How can they be a part of what you're doing, or can they be a part?
Yeah, we have a lot of things coming up. We have a Talent Fest in November that we need volunteers for. Mm-hmm. And this is just to raise money for both of our foundations. But our big event is our fashion show next year, mm-hmm. Painting South Carolina Purple. Mm-hmm. And we really would welcome volunteers to help us participate in this fashion show and the Talent Fest. I mean, it's all just about supporting. Even if you don't live with a ability, we still want you to come out and show some support.
That's what's up. Tell us about the other organization that you said you co-founded.
Epitome of Epilepsy.
Yes. Tell us about Epitome of Epilepsy.
I co-founded Epitome of Epilepsy with Kimberly. We're based here out of Charleston, South Carolina. And my goal is to make sure that people like me aren't afraid to be voiceless. I want to make sure that I'm spreading awareness to African Americans who live with epilepsy, that the journey may not look easy, but you can carry it with confidence, prayer, faith, and with a great support system, you can get through anything. And this is why we formatted this type of platform, because we wanted people to make sure they had a comfortable space to come to.
That's what's up. What about your support systems? Do the two of you have solid support systems outside of each other?
Oh, yeah. I think for me, my mom and my brother, she didn't know anything about epilepsy in the 80s, but that woman, she wouldn't have made anyone think of me that I was different. Mm-hmm. I was active. She refused to let me have the stigmas of what doctors told me that my life would pan out to be. She wasn't going to have that. She's the best person ever.
That's what's up. Ain't nothing like a mama.
Nothing like a mama.
Man behind, listen.
Nothing.
What about you, Kim?
Same. I like I said earlier, I come from a big family. Mess with me if you want to. I'm not responsible for the 565 people that's gonna come behind me.
Oh
yeah,
my goodness.
my family and my close circle of girlfriends. Yeah, I'm good, and my church family. My church family's been hugely supportive because they kind of witnessed it.
Right.
As I went through my seizures, my last bout with my seizures, I was having them in my sleep, and that was a struggle right there.
Right. Not many people know, but you all know because I've shared with you prior. But not many people know that one of my sons suffered from seizure disorders. I'm not gonna say epilepsy after hearing the difference between the two. It was never an epilepsy diagnosis, but it was a seizure disorder diagnosis. And I can say, even as babies, two of them suffer from febrile seizures, which are different. And they're not supposed to, they say that's normal and children do this and that and the other. But any type of seizure disorder can be scary. Mm-hmm. And I just want to say, as a mom who had to learn, figure it out, understand, decide whether or not to put my child on medication or not, have to worry about whether or not he'd be able to drive or not or whatever, we have to open up our mouths and we have to share. We have to talk about it so that we're not all showing up saying, I didn't know anything. That conversation needs to stop. Everybody showing up saying, oh, I didn't know, or this is a learning, or I'm just learning something new. Okay, at some point, it shouldn't be everybody learning something new when we've got so many people who've experienced it, and it's new because we won't open up our mouths and tell other people, right? So I appreciate you ladies for coming into the space tonight, sharing your stories, sharing the foundation with us. I would like for you to share your contact information so people who are watching will be able to reach out to you and connect to the foundation. Kim, we'll start with you.
Okay. You can reach out we're on Instagram and Facebook at Hardy Hands with a Z, HARDY HANDZ. On Foundation on Facebook and Instagram. Also on LinkedIn and Twitter, kind of. They're not my favorite outlets, but I'm there too. And
I feel you having a presence. It's like I'm there, but I don't really want to be there, but I'm there.
I'm there. Yeah. And we also do Purple Table Talk twice a month. We have a YouTube channel, Purple Table Talk with Kim and Jen Vaughn. So, and you can email me, same HARDYHANDZ@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm. All right. And Javon, how can people contact you if they'd like to?
They can contact me through my Epitome of Epilepsy page. Send me an inbox, send me a message. They can also reach out to me through my Instagram page. My email address is cherryjanvon33@gmail.com. Both Kim and I both share our IG page collectively together with Epitome of Epilepsy and Hardy Hands. So if anyone was to leave a question, send us a DM, we would automatically get it.
Yeah. Perfect. All right, everyone. I thank you all for watching tonight and or listening wherever or whenever you're listening. I'd like to thank both Kim and Javon for showing up tonight on SpeakUp Sis podcast to share their stories in order to inspire all of you to open up your mouths and speak up as well. We meet here every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please join us, join the conversation. You can find us on SpeakUp Sis podcast on Facebook, as well as SpeakUp Sis podcast on Instagram. You can also connect with us at www.speakupsis.com. And if you are not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, you can visit us on Speak Up Sis YouTube channel as well. So listen up, everybody. Remember, you have something to say. You are not voiceless. Open up your mouth and speak up. We'll see you next week. Bye.